Welcome, everybody. This is, if you are here to hear about Michael Servetus Unitarian Society strategic planning, you are in the right place, and this is going to be awesome. Thanks for joining our forum today. I'm Katie Johnson. I use she, her pronouns, and I am president of MSUS. It's being recorded. So there should be, and there's a Zoom, there is also a Zoom contingent, so it is live online right now as well. Yes, he could log into our Zoom room to join a meeting in progress. All right. So let's begin with this forum with a reminder of our shared values and our mission. We have named as our shared values mindful interdependence, authentic curiosity, and courageous love. And we have declared that the mission of the MSUS community of all ages is to celebrate and actively examine faith, challenging one another with loving kindness, to be our best selves and work for a flourishing world. May these values and this mission statement guide us as we create our future. My hope for today is that I can present to you in a coherent and digestible way the strategic planning work that the board has been engaged in. So here is today's agenda. Ooh, I was going to try out this laser pointer. Look at that. I'm just going to have a brief introduction to this work and then share an overview of the process we've been working through. And then there will be time for a congregational response. Get your first reactions, any things you want to make sure we don't forget, and then introduce or let you know what's coming next in the process. The last few years have ushered in significant changes. First, the pandemic and then the sale of our church building disrupted our usual congregational life. These were on top of societal trends already in progress that were changing how we interact with each other, including impacts on church participation. We've had some time now to absorb some of the impact of these disruptive forces, and I expect many of us have felt frustration and grief at times as we've weathered changes. Yet I'm convinced, and I hear from you as well, that our MSUS community has valuable things to offer to each other and to the wider communities of which we are a part. So now is the time to seek out the opportunities that accompany disruptive times, to figure out anew how we will bring our unique gifts to the world around us, hence strategic planning. The board, of course, has been thinking about and talking about strategic planning for some months now, and today I'm going to try to bring you up to date on this work. It's going to be necessarily somewhat short. Hopefully I picked the right places to dive into the details so that nobody feels left behind. So these are the 5 steps in our strategic planning process. The board has worked through the first 3 steps in a retreat and in various board meetings. Our work has always been informed by forums from the past year, as well as our own observations and experiences of congregational life at this moment in time. We began by using appreciative inquiry to assess the current state of affairs through the lens of gratitude. What do we already do well? These are the things we can build on. Next, imagine. We named the things that we would like to be true for MSUS in the near-term future. Third is consolidate, and this is where we are now. We consolidated the ideas of the first 2 steps into what we have called focus areas. These are topics we think are worthy of further study to eventually lead to concrete initiatives. Today, I'll share these focus areas and get your initial response. And after today's forum, we'll take time to incorporate your feedback and refine these focus area descriptions before proceeding. Then we'll move into the final 2 steps, which are to explore the focus areas more deeply and then to identify and prioritize strategic initiatives. So, appreciative inquiry. What is going well now? Appreciative inquiry means naming the things we already do well, the things we appreciate about this community as it is now. At our board retreat in October, we generated nearly 150 electronic sticky notes describing all the good things we can build upon. I was actually kind of astounded to see that collection of ideas. At our November board meeting, we picked highlights from these initial sticky notes, the things that most resonated with each of us on that particular day, at least. So I'm going to take some time to share these appreciative inquiry highlights so that we can be centered in gratitude for what we have here at MSUS. A little introduction to this list. We have been using 5 categories to try to ensure that we considered a variety of topics of importance to the congregation. So I'm just going to read through these highlights. When thinking of congregational care and nourishment, people show up for others and step in to help. We have become mindful of inclusive language. We weave context and explanations into our communications to help those who are unfamiliar feel included. Our board has a mix of seasoned and new perspectives. We prioritize relationships. We are a church, even when business needs to be done. We have clear boundaries and contingency planning so people can take time away. Thinking of engagement with the wider community, our website is people-centered and warm and kept current. We now have weekly videos to enhance our online presence. We have new marketing materials. We are building partnerships with organizations that share MSUS values, and this year we were represented at Twin Cities Pride and Columbia Heights Pride. Our programming, we have a multifaceted music program open to all ages, and music is a ministry. We have several active small groups. We have flexibility and experimentation happening with new activities and formats. Our programming variety reaches people where they are and how they want to participate. We have collaboration, new collaborations, in fact, with other organizations, and MSUS happens to have some unique connections that bring insight into denominational activities. Our current gathering spaces are welcoming and hospitable. We have this space for Sunday services here at Fridley Community Center is physically accessible, has carpeting and soft furnishings, it's spacious, has some natural light. We have good access, meaning we can use almost any time we want. We can access a second gathering space at Pilgrim House beyond Sundays. We are reliably offering virtual and hybrid participation. We're currently not directly responsible for maintenance, upkeep, or updates. A building is not who we are. Our budget is a reflection of our values and aspirations. We have a full-time minister and staff who we value as necessary for our community. We don't want to trade our staff for a building, for example. We have generous support of our minister's discretionary fund and community partners. Transparency and clarity around our finances is improving, and generally, there is less fear around finances. The scarcity mindset is not the overarching driver. So it was all I could do to not add more to that list and say, but wait, and there. So I just read the things that the board had highlighted. And remember, there's 7 of us, so we had a lot of things to pick out, but at our last meeting. So building on all the things that we actually do have going well right now, the next step was to imagine what do we want to be true in about 3 years. In the past, it was common to do strategic planning out 5 or even 10 years. Right now, we're living in a dynamic and fast-changing environment with lots of uncertainty about what lies ahead. So we centered on about 3 years for this exercise. Our final strategic initiatives might have a variety of timelines based on what we kind of uncover as part of the process. So in this step, this is still the board working, I don't want to say alone, the board working informed with information from the congregation, but it's not yet been a collaborative process. So the board listed things that we could imagine for our future. Some of these ideas, we wanted these ideas to range from the practical to ideas that maybe were way out there and seemingly unlikely to things that really are already true that we wish to maintain or maybe improve upon. So here's a sample of what this work looked like. You can read a lot of that, I guess. I'm not going to try and share all of the ideas in all of the categories that came up, but I want to give you some amount of understanding of the pieces of the process. So this is a sampling of some of the things the board imagined when thinking just about the category of congregational care and nourishment. We actually were using a program called Miro, and we did make good use of the electronic sticky notes. This is just what I recreated in PowerPoint. So I'll read some of the things that we had listed for this category. We listed that we want to continue to prioritize relationships, even when business needs to be taken care of. We want to have good structures and ways of bringing people into relationship. We want to have a deep or a healthy volunteer pool, and we want people to feel that it's okay to say no. We want to provide rest and comfort and care when people need it. And we want people to know that when they come to this community, they can ask us for help. We want this to be a place where relationships are fostered. We want to have confidence that our leadership positions will be filled. We would like more intergenerational engagement. We want to be a place where the talents of congregants are recognized, where people are glad to share their talents in ways large and small. And we want people to be comfortable that they can be authentic, that it's okay to be human, not everything has to be perfect. So again, these are characteristics, in this case, kind of characteristics of MSUS that we would like to see in the future. So with those two steps, or after those two steps of appreciative inquiry and then imagining what we would like to be true in 3 years, we consolidated that information into what we have called focus areas. These focus areas will be the starting point for a deep dive into what it would actually take to make these things come true. So today, I will list for you all the focus areas, and there aren't as many as, there are still 11 of them. There's still quite a few, but they're not quite as many things as the pages I've just been through. They're a little bit simplified. And then we'll pause and get your feedback. So that's really the goal of today. The latest thing the board has done as part of the strategic planning is to generate these focus areas, and we'd like to see if they resonate, if they don't, what you think of the work so far. So, focus areas. So this first group here is this congregational care and nourishment, and that's the one that I just showed you some of the things that the board had said, this is what we would like to be true in that area. And we consolidated those particular sticky notes to say that we would like to be a community that provides care, rest, comfort, and connection, and we would like to have a healthy volunteer pool. Again, this is not the only thing we hope, but these are things where we've wanted to perhaps give some focus as we determine specific strategic initiatives. Also, I'm showing you these focus areas. They're still grouped by these categories that we used. The categories helped to ensure that our discussion leading up to this point touched on all the various important areas for the congregational life. But as we start talking to it more, there's more interconnection, and I think it's going to be harder, and we don't necessarily want to divide things into specific categories. We want to see where things go and where our interest and energy and I guess needs end up showing up. And we were not trying to get a particular number of focus areas. We looked at this big wish list we generated about what might be true for the future, and this is where we ended up. So there happened to be 11 of them. So I already read these two, the congregational care and nourishment category. When looking at engagement with the wider community, we listed that we would like to be known to the community through mutually beneficial partnerships and equipped to be responsive to emerging needs of marginalized communities in the northern suburbs. Thinking about our programming, we want to offer multifaceted programming in which all ages feel seen and heard. Not really new, but we noticed that we would like to add some special emphasis on youth and families, on young adults, and on forming intergenerational connections. We note that staff members are integral to our programming, so we want to be a good employer and, aware of the need for succession planning, be attractive to future staff. When we think about gathering spaces, we would like to have 24/7 access to a single location for multiple types of gatherings. And we would like to be able to envision alternatives to owning our own building. Thinking about financial health and stability, we would like congregation-wide focus on mission, supporting our long-term financial health and viability, and continue to have our budget be a reflection of our values and aspirations. And finally, whichever name we decide on for the future of our congregation, we want to be able to connect that. We want to be able to and work at connecting that name to our congregational identity. So this is the point where we pause for discussion and ask, what are your reactions so far? Did you feel that any or all of your hopes for MSUS are represented in those focus areas? Are there any ideas that most resonate with you? So let's see, I am going to stop sharing. It looks like we have, what do we have? I didn't count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So we've got maybe 24, 25 people here, combined, Zoom and in the room. And so to just remind us that we should answer briefly and try to pick the thing that jumps out at you the most for now. And then if there's time, we can go around again. I think it makes most sense to try to go, around the room, if you will. And I think, Byron, does it work to alternate between Zoom and online? I think we'll do that. So if there's anyone in the room who would like to be the first person, Marie, and then after that, we'll just go in a circle. And then I'll do the same thing. We'll pick someone online, and then I'll just start calling people so that we save a little bit of time. So if anyone online wants to put their hand up to be the first one online when we get there, I'll call on you first, and then I'll start then I'll just call on people randomly.
Okay. I like that there's that it had families, young adults, more of a focus on that, because I think that is really necessary.
Thank you, Marie. Okay, now I'm trying to look online. I don't see anybody with the hand up, so I am just going to, Janice has her hand up? Okay, thank you. Janice.
I think the board is going in the right direction. I like all of the pieces that you have so far.
Thanks, Janice. And then we have Bruce in the room.
And I would agree with what Marie said. I was going to say kind of same thing. I'd like to see more youth involvement within this room. Somehow get the families back in here to get the kids going. I'd like to see more of that. When we get over to Pilgrim House, I see more kids there involved, and I'm not sure what they're doing different to see more of the youth there, but I'd sure like to see more of the youth in here.
Thank you, Bruce. So now I'll just pick based on my screen. And so Kathy, what would you like to add? Kathy Forbes, I know you're on the board, but what is your reaction viewing it today?
Well, it looked good. And I would say that when we were discussing alternatives to owning a building, that we looked at perhaps a joint building with one or more other organizations. And that's happening more and more after COVID anyhow. It's all sorts of organizations. So I like that.
Thank you, Kathy. And in the room, we have Jamie.
Hi, I'm Jamie, she, hers. I'm also really concerned about the fact that we don't have families here with a physical presence every week or even online, and would like to see them come back. And one of the things that resonated with me was that using the talents of individual members. I felt like that's one of the things that hooked me in here, was that I got to use my talents and skills in different ways. And I'm not just talking music, I'm talking about other kinds of stuff as well, and felt I could make a valuable contribution and really have a meaningful role here. The other ones, I was tuned out. So I can't tell you that connecting with community, what my reaction is.
Okay, so online, Lois or Ali, you look like you're in the same place. Are either or both of you ready too? And then Rob, right after.
We both missed almost all of your presentation. We had something else to deal with here. However, I would say it would be wonderful if we had more robust help for each other. I forget how you worded it. I'd like to add one more thing, and I don't want this to be a downer. I'm afraid that our church has had a history of always calling on the same people. So if somebody wants to perform music and they're not in the choir or they're not in the band, they often cannot do it. They cannot get their foot in the door. I saw it with building and grounds. It took me years to get on that committee, despite how much I wanted to be on. It's something we need to be aware of and work on correcting. And that's where I'm going to leave it.
Excuse me, thank you. So we'll go to Reverend Laura is next in the room, and then Rob will catch you online.
I just want to call out, just in terms of the language of we don't have families here, that we do have families with youth every other week. So just to be cautious about our language. It's definitely a huge shift. Don't get me wrong. I mourn the fact that we don't have little kids running up front and sitting and listening to stories. So, but I also want us to be careful about our language so that the families who are here feel seen and valued.
Thank you. Rob, and then when we come back, so we'll have Rob now and then in the room, and then Brian when we come back. Let's see, Rob, you are muted. Let me see.
And
There we go.
a need to look at what the environment's going to be. Just east of us, for the most part, is going to be a new, essentially, town of 10,000 people. And that's Rice Creek Commons that's going to be developed. And I don't know what would be our role in assessing how that development occurs. I know it's politically hot water, but there's going to be a range of people moving into that area, both in single family and in multifamily. And as we look at the environment that we're working in, one of the nice things, there aren't any other competing Unitarian churches out here on the northern end of the metropolitan area. But I just think the strategic plan ought to look at some of those either opportunities or things that might degrade the plan within the environment that we have nothing to do about, that we can do about.
Thank you, Rob. Janice Vassar.
I was thinking about what Reverend Laura was talking about a few weeks ago in terms of what is our community and community outreach. And I think that's a real opportunity. yesterday I was one of the people that responded to someone in Twin Cities Queer Families who said, my kids want to go to church, but this is, we're liberal, we're this, we're that. And I was one of several people that said, you sound like a Unitarian. There's several Unitarian churches in the suburbs as well as the ones in the cities to consider. So I think thinking about what communities need outreach from us, which may bring them to MSUS, but it might also bring some of those people to other Unitarian churches, which wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing.
Thank you, Janice. Online, can we have Brian, and then the next online person will be Pamela?
Yeah, good morning. I think the thing that excites me most is, and I guess I've heard maybe a little more just sitting on board meetings, but the thought of a shared space, a collaborative space that we would have access to, I think that can check a couple of boxes for us. One, to have, obviously a dedicated space, but two, we're fairly small, and some of these things, we have lofty goals, and sometimes we just don't have the facilities to do it, both in terms of people power and resources and whatnot. So I really like the thought about being more collaborative. And then, gosh, I had one more point. What was it? It was actually from the service today, just not necessarily the thought that things aren't going to be the way they used to be, and that we need to, keep looking forward. And so I hear things, like we need more families and children, and I get that, but we have to envision, what that might look like that doesn't look like the past. So I just want to throw in another point of caution on kind of looking backwards and being nostalgic for things that aren't going to happen and feeling bad about it. So that's it for me. Great work, board. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. And here in the room, Lynn, are you next?
Yes, I like Brian's last point that we really do need to look to the future, and we need to be creative and flexible about that future. And I'm hoping, I'm optimistic that as a congregation, as we start to really talk about the practical actions that we can take, that there are some things that will really make a difference, not only for us, but for the community around us. And that's very exciting.
Thank you, Lynn. Online, Pamela, are you ready to share something? And then Elizabeth.
Sure. So I liked all of the points that you went through. I found myself nodding my head like, yep, that resonates. Yep, that resonates. But one of the ones that stood out in particular is the partnering with community organizations. And I think that too, not only is an obvious outreach of our beliefs and values, but is also a possible opportunity to grow. So I really am enthusiastic about those and feel optimistic about those as we move forward. And then because I'm happily not first in this line of people, so that I am taking in everything people are saying and thinking, yes, I really think too that what was just said about making sure that, yes, we want to make sure that we have families. Yes, we want to make sure that we're doing whatever. But that forward looking, not the easiness of falling back into what was, but looking forward, and especially being flexible. I think this is the first I've heard seriousness about sharing a space. And I realize it's just an option, but boy, it could offer it a lot of opportunities. And if we can be flexible in what we think of as space and community and all of that, I think it will greatly behoove us, and we will find growth.
Thank you, Pamela. And here in the room, Lori Young.
I was just going to comment on the action and justice slide. I can't remember the exact points that were on that slide, but I think just kind of one of the reactions I had is I'd like to see that it's strengthened a little more. I don't know how, but my kind of sense or thinking was that we need to find figure out how to find the energy and interest within our group to kind of unleash some really projects or actions that can make a difference. And I just thought partnering with organizations might just be a little weak. So if there was some way to strengthen that, but I don't know how. You have to think. So, I thought it was a great start.
Thank you, Lori. Online, Elizabeth, and then Roger will be the next online person.
Oh, hi, I'm Elizabeth, she, her. I think it's going to take, in my opinion, some combination of these things that you've brought up. I think a shared space would be fantastic. I think kind of a home base is going to do some good for attracting new people. I think and being able to afford it, and of course, sharing that space might be a good thing. I agree with growing the volunteer group and doing more community outreach. I think that's how we're going to grow. I think I too would love to see more young adults, families of any kind. I think that's how how MSUS will continue to go forward. But then we have to look at, okay, so what is our community outreach? How are we attracting those people? How are we serving that community to welcome them in? And I think that's probably going to take like the volunteers we're talking about to come up with kind of this the outreach. Yeah, so that's just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And here in the room, we have Kathy Burek next.
I was pleased to see the statement that we prioritize the staff over a building, because that's in fact what we've been doing. Although we've talked enough about wanting to buy a new building that it sets up an inherent tension in how we spend or not spend money. If we're going to try to think about buying a building, we need those investments to stay where they are. We need them to grow so we have a down payment so we can use the interest income in order to pay off a mortgage or rental, because that costs money too. Having said that we prioritize staff over a building means that the financial behavior we've been exhibiting is consistent with our priorities. I would say the reason you're not hearing so much about scarcity is that the people who have historically had the most concerns about how we're spending money are either no longer here, they've moved away, they've died, or in some cases, they just don't feel like they're being listened to. And the thing about money is it is a zero-sum game. And the stock market and bond markets are not a reliable income source as we've seen in the last couple of years. So if we're going to think about buying a building to just own it for ourselves, if we're thinking about buying a building to rent it and share it out, that still requires a commitment of funds. And if we keep pulling money out of our investments, then that's not there. So, yes, let's set the priorities and be really clear that the staff is more important and current operations are more important, and the idea of buying a building or something like that is a lower priority, because then at least we know that our spending is in line with what we say our priorities are.
Thank you. Thank you, Kathy. Online, Roger, if you are ready, and then after Roger will be Anna. Roger, if you were there, you're late. Roger's showing up as Jamie, but Jamie's in the room. You are muted at the moment. I will unmute you. So, Roger, you are live if you would like to say anything.
No comment.
Okay, great. Thanks. It's great to hear your voice. Anna, we'll just go on we'll continue with a person online here. There's Anna. All right.
I think it's affirming, being on the board, it's affirming hearing that we weren't totally off base.
Thanks, Anna. And here in the room, we have Merle.
I think the board's done a really great job with this. And I do think it's important that we, as Kathy says, acknowledge where our priorities are. And that staffing is important to us. How we serve through that staffing and how people are served through that staffing is really important. And I would like to see, a dedicated 24/7 space. But if it comes to war, I want the staffing.
Thanks, Merle. David, I have you next in my list. I didn't really give you too much forewarnings. David, if you're ready, and Stephanie after that. Or did David might have logged off? All right. He was there just a moment ago. Stephanie, how about you?
Well, we seem to have a little problem with there we go. I actually think that what the board came up with looks really good. The thing that pleases me in particular, and several people have mentioned it, is that the comment of valuing the staff over the building. I think it's the people that make the organization, not necessarily the building. I think if we have, the community center seems to work well, although I haven't been there for a while. But it will allow us more flexibility if we collaborate, I think. And hopefully it'll be a little less expensive and allow us to keep our staff and our services going more than just trying to keep upkeep for the building. So, that's my feeling on it.
Thank you, Stephanie. And here in the room, we have Pat.
Thank you, Bard, for the work on this. It looks really good. Just an observation I had this morning as we were rushing to try to get here. I had a thought, I hope someone thought to shovel. And then I thought, yeah, that's probably been taken care of. And I personally go back and forth between building, renting. I kind of been really excited with what we've been doing with renting and Pilgrim House and the Turkish organization. I like variety, so it's been kind of interesting. But that was just kind of a interesting observation this morning.
Thank you, Pat. Let's see, I was going to ask Liz there. Liz is on the screen. Liz and then Marilyn,
I'm here.
And then Marcia and Bob will be, I think, the last people online if they're nearby. So go ahead, Liz.
I don't have anything to add other than to thank everyone for being here today and that your feedback is extremely valuable and we appreciate all of it so much. So thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Here in the room, we have Beth Stroopman.
Well, first of all, I commend the board for all of your work. This kind of thing is tedious at best, so thanks. And a number have mentioned what you had in there about looking to the future. And I don't know how many people have thought of one aspect of that, many of us are getting, well, everybody's getting older, but we had mention of ailments today, backs and surgery and things, and that doesn't diminish. That's just sort of increases with age. And then there are just so many things involved. And I think as well as, wanting to be rich with families and young folks, We need to think about what we do to make things more accessible for, I know I would love if Coffee House was during the day on Saturday. It's a Saturday, and we could do that. I was so glad to hear the Christmas concert. The holiday concert is going to be at this time. Anyway, just a thought.
Thank you, Beth. Then from online, Marilyn. You are muted at the moment. Let's see. Okay, Marilyn maybe has stepped away. And is there anyone there, Bob or Marcia? I see you're listening. There's Marcia. Here, I will unmute you, Marcia.
Okay.
There you go. You're on. You are live.
Okay, thank you. I have to confess I've been just gathering more information today and feeling like I don't have much to offer, but I do commend the board for all the work that's been done. I'm feeling open to the idea of that we build a building or multiple buildings, whatever is necessary, to accommodate those people that maybe don't live quite as close as some of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcia. So here in the room, then we have Chris to close us out. And oh, I guess we have Byron, if Byron wants to say anything. Do you have anything to add? Okay, we'll have Chris and then Byron. And then I think we'll have gotten everyone.
First of all, on the question of priority, at least in the short term, I am total agreement that the staffing is more important than the building. That said, the conundrum that I'm facing is I'm not sure we're going to get to be a size to be sustaining. And let's face it, I look around the room and 20 years from now, most of us are not going to be here. What's MSUS going to be if we don't grow and attract new people? And I am beginning to suspect that the lack of a building is going to be a hindrance to, a lack of permanent space, which doesn't need to be our own standalone building, but our own space, may be a detriment at this point to achieving that. So long-term, I have serious questions about how we do that. At the same time, we have not been supporting the congregation to the level financially, all of us together, to the point that would allow us to do both. So I guess part of it is an ad for digging as deep as everybody can. That said, I think the board's done a fantastic job at putting this together, and I personally want to thank them for the work that they've done.
I don't know if it's on. Who's online? Okay. Okay, Lois, I see you. Did you want to have a separate comment from Ali? Lois says no. Thank you for pointing that out. We didn't want to miss you, Lois. And Byron in the room.
Okay, oops, I got to take this out. So when the topic of outreach came up, reaching out to younger families, just for example, in the queer community, but not isolated to the queer community, it strikes me that the first hurdle we have to overcome to introduce ourselves is Unitarian Universalist. Those two words, in my mind, are a hurdle. I can only imagine somebody Andrea's age or younger who's not ever heard of either of those and hit with those two words, their first question should be, what? Like, where would be the interest? I know there's nothing we can do to change that. I really wish the UUA would change their name completely. I guess the A is okay, but.
It's still many syllables. Yeah.
But anyhow, that's what I perceive as a hurdle, but I'm really talking out of class because I don't know how to do outreach to anybody. But that's how I perceive it. Another thing about our operation that we need to address more seriously and soonish, is this. It is our vulnerability. Sorry, this in front of me, this technology that allows us to interact across such great distances. It is daunting. Let's just admit it. It is daunting. But we do need, and this is, I'm talking about myself as well. We need to put focus in the next year into shoring up this ability we have to reach out and share things, because it's a long learning curve. So identifying people who can take this on and ease their way into it and get used to it is something we need to dedicate some energy to.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Is there anyone I missed? I think I got everyone in the room and online. Is my mic on at all? As long as you can hear me, I don't know what's in Zoom. All right. Okay. So thank you, everyone, for your thoughtful responses. It lifts my heart. I never expected to enjoy in any fashion being on a board, and this is always so great. So be aware, however, that does not mean that I want to stay here forever. And I do want to hand off the presidency to someone else at the end of this year. But we'll move back into our presentation now. I did have to muck up with my screen here, so it will take me a minute to get my slides back up. That would be weird.
Hello. Oh, I just wanted to say that we do have an interview with a director of family ministry candidate tomorrow night. So those of you who are on the interview team, I'll be contacting you. Because I think that the reality is, like, we need a person there who's fueling, both external and internal energy. I feel excited about this candidate. We'll see how it goes. But I just want you to know that there has been motion going on. We had 2 applicants, one has fallen to the wayside. So we're in this person, and if that doesn't work, we'll keep going. But just want to give you a heads up on that.
Thanks. All right, so what's coming next? After today, we will review the comments and thoughts that you shared today, and we'll incorporate them into the focus areas as seems appropriate. And then once we feel comfortable that these or other focus areas are the ones that are worth more study, then we move into the final steps of the process, which are to explore more deeply these focus areas. And we're going to use a tool called mind mapping. And then we'll take those insights to develop and prioritize specific initiatives, which will guide how we direct our time and energy in the coming few years. This is an example of a mind map. It's a visual way of looking at how things build on each other and connect with each other. And so here I've taken I've zoomed in on a mind map example. This is all just example. I was playing around with it, putting in some sample stuff. It is not yet, we have to build them out for ourselves. But as an example, if we take that focus area that we were looking at a little bit of being a community that provides care, rest, comfort, and connection, we might start listing things like we need to be skilled at welcoming newcomers so that they know that that's that kind of community. And we need to make sure that they know that this is a culture, that everybody knows that this is a culture in which it's okay to ask each other for help. And maybe we say that we want to practice radical hospitality. And then we would go into each of these items and look a little deeper. So if we want to, when we're welcoming newcomers, everybody needs to be remembering to use inclusive language. Maybe we get skilled at being, a little set of conversation starters in our back pocket. We all remember to wear our name tags. Thinking about radical hospitality, those might be things like being ready for people before they arrive. Like as Kathy always regularly reminds us, sometimes we remember, but to keep on our toes about having space for people with mobility devices, being aware that we ought to have allergen-free food options, for example. So I just wanted to give an example of what I'm talking about when I say that we're going to take a deep dive by using mind maps. So the goal of mind mapping is to gain a deep understanding of the focus areas that we're exploring. Mapping out the building blocks and interconnections should help us to see where, for example, one building block might support multiple end goals. It will help us see which building blocks already exist, what is already in place. It will help us understand what of some of those top level goals, which ones might be more quickly realized, which ones are going to take longer, which ones are going to be sort of easy, which ones are going to take more resources. We hope that this can be a collaborative effort, including the board and the congregation. And so we're thinking of having a workshop day on a Saturday in January. We haven't set a date yet. That would kind of be a kickoff of this, doing this deeper dive into these various areas with mind mapping. And I presume that we would have follow-up sessions of some sort. So I'm finding that, strategic planning, maybe if we could dedicate all of our time to it, would happen fast. But given that at least half of us on the board have day jobs, and everyone has lots to do, it's kind of a long and a little bit of a mucky process, but anyway, so that's what's happening. So look for information in January as we start some of the steps that are hopefully more collaborative. And then once we've, really get a good understanding of what it takes to be who we want to be, we'll come back up to the bigger picture again and draft and prioritize some strategic initiatives. These final initiatives will be aligned with our values and mission, and they really should be a mix of what I have called easy, comfortable, and stretch goals. So an easy initiative might also be called low-hanging fruit. It would require little preparation and few resources to accomplish, kind of just shining up some things maybe that we're already doing. Comfortable initiatives will feel achievable, but they're going to require some effort, more effort than the easy goals. And stretch initiatives, in my language, are definitely going to require greater effort and sustained enthusiasm. When we list them, they should at least sound achievable, but they might also feel a little bit risky. And we have to take risks. We have to be ready to take risks, and we have to be ready that some of the time the outcome won't be as we wanted, and we will learn from that. To define and prioritize these initiatives that we're trying to create, we're going to draw on information from a few different sources. We'll have that in-depth look that I mentioned that we'll have learned from mind mapping. We are also going to have insights from a congregational survey. We have a survey coming up that is a free benefit from a class that Reverend Laura is taking, and that survey, it's being prepared right now. And then we'll spend some time going through what's called a SWOT analysis, in which we look at how our congregational strengths and weaknesses intersect with the opportunities and threats or challenges in the world around us. We actually did get a start on that at our board retreat, but we'll want to look through that again with thinking of these specific ideas that we've now identified more clearly. And we hope that this step too, when we're developing and prioritizing some final strategic initiatives that we have collaboration with the congregation. And when I say collaboration, I don't think that we're ever going to have like everybody in the congregation working all at the same time. I mean, that'd be kind of cool. But, you know, to the extent that you are interested or excited by one or more of the areas we're talking about, come and join in the conversation. So we have come to the end of my slides. Please share thoughts and ask questions that come after this forum with me or with any other board members. Not everybody might know this. I do look at the emails that go to board@msuu.org. So if you ever don't want to type in or don't remember my super long address, you can send stuff to board@msuu.org or to me or any of the board members if you already have our other email addresses. Catch us after a service. We really want to continue getting your feedback. And I know from my own experience, my great idea is not when I'm here, it's you know, sometime later. So do know that we are still wanting to collect that. And like I said, kind of the next thing we're thinking of, or the next big step will probably be in January, where we really start to look deeply at these focus areas. I can, yes. I didn't have, no, I'm happy to do that. I just didn't make any okay, all right. The question was, Reverend Laura wanted to know if I would put my PowerPoint online with the Thursday update, or in other, you know, a lot of our stuff is actually available directly from the website without going through the Thursday update. So yes, I can do that. I don't have anything pre-planned or pre-prepared for that, but I can push it out into a PDF format and for people to look online. So thank you for participating today. Anybody is available to help doing a little bit of cleanup, that'd be great. Our next event is next Saturday when we have Coffee House, so hope to see you there. That may not be the next event, that's the next in-person event.